Everybody, welcome to Down Home Backyard Gardening. Now in this video what I want to focus on is pollination, not pollinators. I did a video on pollinators for elementary school kiddos. If you want to see that video, I'll put a link to that one right here. It's all about pollinators. But this video I want to focus on pollination, because no matter what season that we're in, regardless if you're planting something and your vegetables have flowers on them, something will need to pollinate them. But let's understand in a very simple way just what pollination is. I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also go over and check out farmersdefense.com. If you are looking for a good quality sleeve that actually cools your arm when you're sweating, this company is the place to go. At checkout, type in backyard 10 and save 20%. Also, if you are into social media sites for vegetables, check out the ones that I'm posting here. Okay everybody, with all that said, let's grow. Okay, so you're asking yourselves, Chad, why do I need to know about pollination? Well, here's my answer to that. If you have plants that you have been growing, say from seed, you've put all this time and effort and money and sweat and blood into growing this plant, and all it's doing is producing flowers, but no fruit or vegetables, you're gonna be like, hey, why is it not producing anything? What is going on? Did I do something wrong? Well, more than likely, no, you didn't do anything wrong. It's the plant going through its growing cycle. Sometimes the plants will put on nothing but male flowers, and sometimes they'll put on nothing but female flowers. But yes, you heard that right. For those that are new to gardening and don't really know that there are male and female flowers, I probably just blew your mind. I'm going to show you examples right here of a male flower and right here of a female flower. And if you look closely, you can tell the difference. The male flower has a stem and the flower at the top. The female flower has the stem, the fruit, whatever the fruit will be, and then the flower. So that is an example of male and female flower. It's important to know that because not all plants do that. Some plants, which I'll get into in just a minute, actually have both the male and female parts of the flower inside the same flower. But for right now, we're talking about a plant that has separate flowers. And I'm going to use the squash plant right here behind me as a great example of what I'm talking about. We come in on this squash plant here. Now this is a huge plant. This thing is just going crazy. I mean, look how far over it is. But if we come in, that right there is a male flower. Notice how it just has a stem and a flower. This right here is a female flower. As you can see, it's got the stem, the fruit right here, and then the flower. So let me show you on another plant that makes it a little easier to tell. So this is a butternut squash plant right here. This right here is a male flower. Just a stem and a flower. But if we look right here, we have a stem, the future fruit, and a flower. This is the female flower. So why is this important? It's important to know that because if you have a plant that has nothing but male flowers, you might think you did something wrong. Or if you have a plant that has nothing but female flowers, you might think you did something wrong. There's nothing that you did wrong. The plant is just going through its cycle. It will eventually start producing male and female at some point in its life cycle. In order for that plant to produce fruit, that female flower has to be pollinated from that male flower. So when I talk about how important it is to bring in pollinators, this is an example because this plant has to get pollen from the male flower over to the female flower. You could get cross-pollination if a bee lands, say, in a pepper plant and then comes over and lands in the squash plant. Well, as long as there's pollen there, it's going to get pollinated. So what I wanted to stress in this video is just how important it is to understand your plants when you're looking at them, figuring out what kind of pollinating attractants that you need. Do you need more flowers? Do you need more vegetables of different kinds that will bring in pollinators, like for companion planting? It's really important to understand pollination when you're getting into gardening, because without pollination we won't have anything. nothing will grow. So it's it's almost as important as just understanding the soil composition, when to plant, how much water to give, you know, all the stuff that we learn as we're gardening. Pollinating and pollination is something that I, for one, didn't really know a lot about, because I mean, we all went through elementary school science. You know, a bee lands in a flower and goes to another flower and then it's pollinated. Well, yes, but there's more to it than that. Now, there are plants, like I mentioned earlier, that don't need a pollination like what we just talked about. They do what's called self-pollinating, and those are super easy. Okay, right here behind me is the pepper bed. Now, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, just a few examples of plants that are self-pollinating. In other words, inside each flower of those plants, that flower has both the male part and the female part inside the same flower. So when a bee goes inside that flower and starts messing around, it's pollinating it already. Or if a wind blows really hard and it shakes the plant and that flower's flopping around, the pollen inside it can actually transfer from male to female side and pollinate that flower. So a self-pollinating plant is beyond easy, and cross-pollinating in those plants it's not impossible, but it doesn't happen a lot from what I've learned, and especially from what I've noticed out here. My peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, tomatillos, those plants are all cucumbers. Those are all self-pollinating plants. So when you see a bee going in, you can almost guarantee, hey, that's going to become fruit. Okay, so let's use this eggplant flower as an example. Inside that flower are both the male and the female parts of the flower. So if a bee lands right there on all that yellow, and then it's moving around and it moves the pollen from the yellow to that green tip right there, that flower now will become a fruit, will become an eggplant, because it has been pollinated. Whereas for this squash plant, if you look down in there, all the ants in there, if they came across here and then went in there, then this will become a fruit, and this will now be pollinated. So everyone, I wanted to keep this video short. This was strictly a beginner's guide to pollination for anyone who's not really certain of what pollinating is or the importance of pollination and understanding your plants. Because again, each plant is different, and what it requires to pollinate is different. So part of being a gardener for me is trying to learn everything. Again, I'm new to this right now, and I'm learning, and I want to share everything that I'm learning. So everyone, that's the video. If y'all enjoyed this, if you learned anything from it, do me a favor, share it, like it, and comment down below. And until next time, shine bright and harvest hard. Bye.